Afternoon. My name is Kate Howard. I'm secretary to the corporation. In the absence of the chair of the Finance Committee, I call the special meeting of EFC's Finance Committee to order. I'll now call a roll of the committee members present. Mr. Markey?
Here.
Mr. Krasansky?
Here.
And Mr. Zarofsky.
I'm here.
The first order of business is to appoint a committee chair pro tem, as Director Corcoran couldn't be with us. Mr. Markey has kindly agreed to serve in his absence. May I have a motion to appoint Mr. Markey as the chair pro tem to preside over this meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. A second?
Second is fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. That has been approved, so I now turn over the meeting to Mr. Markey.
Thank you, Secretary Howard. Appreciate it. We have one agenda today on our special meeting of the Finance Committee, and that is to have a presentation and discussion and then take a committee vote for an authorization request for the issuance of New York State EFC's Clean Water and Drinking Water Revolving Fund Revenue Bonds, Series 2022A, on behalf of New York City Municipal Water Finance Authority. So with that, could I ask Brian McClintock to overview what we're looking at today?
Sure, thank you. As you stated, it's a resolution for to issue bonds for New York City Municipal Water, and it's their second resolution bonds, and they will be issued at the subordinate level for EFC. The max resolution is for $879,569,000. This is a full flex resolution. We do not expect it to be up that high because we expect to do direct financings for a piece of it, but we always do come in for the higher amount in case the markets change. The proceeds will be used to refinance clean water and drinking water short-term financings for 19 projects, 18 projects on the clean water side and 1 project on the drinking water side. The proceeds will also be used to refund Series 12A and 12D bonds and a 12A direct financing that delivered the subsidy for the 12A bonds. We have an estimated, as of today, before markets change and everything, we have an estimate of about $18.5 million for savings. We expected to issue this as a blend rate financing using EFC proceeds to deliver direct financings on related to the short-term refinancings, and those direct financings will deliver the subsidy to New York Water. One interesting thing is that we have already refunded once. The 12A and the 12D bonds are refundings of prior series from EFC for Series 2002B, 2002D, 2002J. Those were refunded into 2012A, and we delivered $87 million worth of savings to New York Water for that refunding. And then in 2012D, that refunded 2002E, 2002K, which delivered $63 million worth of savings. So now we're adding another 18 million into that, potentially 18 million into that. So, the refundings are really working for New York Water. Right now, the outlook for the fixed income, as we all know, the markets are a little up in the air right now, but we still feel that this refunding will bring in the projected savings that we're looking at. We do have thresholds that we like to meet, so we'll look at that right up to the refunding time. As of right now, the schedule is to get ratings from the rating services on March 25th, post a preliminary official statement on March 28th, and then pricing the week of April 4th and closing on April 21st. We're still in the process right now of picking our financial team, bond counsels and underwriters council. I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Brian. That's great. Also, I just want to point out, it's a great summary on the 5-pager as well. That's good. And there is some more detail, and the materials have been in front of the board for well over a week for review.
Mhm.
So that has been really helpful. And savings,
Great.
thanks for pointing out all the savings. That's helpful as well.
Great.
Thanks, Vita. And Brian, I just one question. Sorry, I did review the materials, and obviously thank you for that on this particular. This is the first New York City, obviously, chunk I've seen since I've been on the board. So I just was wondering if, just take a step back and put a little context, which is, how does this fit in terms of overall work between EFC and New York City? Is this the entire universe? I just don't have a picture of the landscape of how much business we do, if you will, with New York City, and how this fits into it, and what if
This-
it's different about this than other dealings or not.
This is actually a pretty normal EFC deal for New York City. This year, we will probably end up doing a second deal for New York City. Typically, we do a deal that has a refunding in it and the new money roll of the short terms. This short term was originally issued in 2000. It went to the board in 2000, and we finally finished dispersing on it the end of last year. We did have some delays in the disbursements on those related to some EPA regulations that changed that had to be confirmed from New York Water. Those delays also resulted in a delay of issuing a new short term, because typically we do a short term every year. So last year we did not do a short term for New York Water. So we actually have 2 to do in this IUP year. That's why you'll probably see a second deal later in the year related to that. So this deal, like I said, is a typical New York Water deal. We do anywhere from 150 to 200 million on the drinking water side, and 250 to 350 million on the clean water side per year.
And is there anything, given the new administration at the city and the size of that stuff, is there anything you guys are expecting in terms of changes, or would want in terms of changes in the way New York City goes about selecting and designing projects?
That I don't know if Bill can speak on that. The selection in the designing of projects would be out of their DEP shop, and Bill might have some input on that.
Maybe not.
Those are the technical difficulties there. So I just want to make sure I understood exactly what you were asking for, Adam.
Well, no, my question is, I'm just trying to understand better, as I say, and you'll forgive the indulge me on this just because it's the first time dealing with New York City. But I'm thinking about, obviously, it's the largest municipality in the state. These are big numbers. They have a new administration. Obviously, the question I'm just trying to get my hands around is, the nature, trying to understand the history of the nature between the corporation and New York City, but then also the question that I've been sort of trying to throw out the last few board meetings as well, which is, how are we thinking proactively and prospectively about what we want projects to look like? And given that this is a whole bunch of stuff that New York City is kind of doing and then getting revolved, I'm just curious if there's anything, especially with the new administration, that might make sense to engage on as New York City keeps bringing projects forward that might better align, or might be something that the past administration did that you might want to see changed or whatnot. So that's the nature of this question. Is there something unclear about it? I mean, let me know. I'm happy to, but I'm just trying to understand the relationship and how this fits in, and what you guys see as going forward in relationship with the largest municipality vis-a-vis how they go about it in a new administration.
I think the projects that we meet with the city on a regular basis and determine what projects we're doing with them. We don't do any. We're only doing work with them at their their treatment plants, not any of the collection system, because of the way they do the environmental review doesn't work with us. We do use New York City for our equivalency projects. So each year we get a capitalization grant from EPA, and we have to have that dollar amount, say it's $175 million, has to comply with certain federal requirements. So we do use New York City projects for that, for the most part, because of the way they do their environmental reviews, already complies with those requirements. So we do look for projects that help us meet those requirements. In terms of, when you say types of projects, are you meaning the type of work that they're doing there?
I'm not sure what I mean. I'm new to this. I need an education from you. Okay. What I'm asking for, and I'm not trying to give you a hard time, is this is the largest municipality in the state. Yes. Right.
Yes.
Largest amount of deals we do. Right. Yes. How they have a new administration. How do you envision TFC furthering its mission, broadly defined, with the largest customer in a new administration going forward? I'm using this as I want this as an opportunity to educate me so I understand where you guys have in terms of plan. It sounds, and that's, I'm not sure I don't mean to make a hard time. I just want to understand how you see using this as an opportunity to educate me and perhaps others, but certainly me, because I don't know what I'm talking about in this situation, as to what this looks like in terms of this relationship going forward. That's all I'm asking.
So,
Go ahead, Brian.
Anyone, I just want to have a long conversation. I just want to
yeah,
understand.
no.
Or if there's any challenges specifically that would cause you to have any consideration.
Right.
To expand on what Bill was saying, we do biweekly calls with New York Water on both for New York Water and DEP, and we talk about the project schedules and the financings. I think both the engineering staff and the finance staff reaches out on a constant basis to our counterparts at, you know, it's a little different because you've got the New York Water who does the financing part of it, and you've got DEP that does the engineering and actually doing the projects side of it. You know, we are actually very proactive with them on any types of changes that we need to make and you know, project scopes and stuff like that. So as far as the new administration goes, they've seen some changes at the top at DEP. We have not seen any changes in the administration with New York Water as of yet. So, you know, I guess we expect our working relationship to stay pretty solid on that.
Yeah, let's move on because it's not related specifically to this deal. I'm certainly fine with this deal. I know we have tight time, but I'm a little surprised that, I guess my question is, I'm a little surprised that you have a new administration. This is your largest customer. There are people lining up who do business with New York City all over the place who are saying, here's what we would think we want to see as a new administration. Here would be our vision of what we can do together. Here's whatever. And I'd love to hear that from you about what your role is with New York City. I'm not hearing it now, but we can have a separate.
Adam,
that's fine. Go ahead.
May I interject? I'm Caitlin Penner, Deputy Director, and I've worked with New York City since I've started at EFC. We work with the city and list projects for our intended use plan that are on their capital budget. So when they have changes in their capital budget, we work directly with DEP to ensure that those projects are listed on our intended use plan and then move forward on those projects. So right now with the new administration, they are looking at sort of rejiggering their projects and aligning their new plan with the new administration. So when their new budget comes out based on that, we will then be working with DEC to ensure that those projects are listed.
You know, they are New York City as the biggest municipality in the state, also has the biggest need. And that's why they get the most money, because we have to, per our regulations, give money based on need. And there are entire category C on the IEP. But, you know, a lot of the projects they have to do are consent order projects or they work with, you know, DEC. So they're, you know, I'm sure you're talking kind of about like how we meet the climate change goals and things like that. But
well, anything broadly, just in terms of what you are, we can have this conversation later. I really didn't mean to get us down this rabbit hole.
Oh, maybe we can pick up and have some discussion and a little education on the sequencing of how we get here with the number and everything like that, and how it fits into our annual cycle.
New York City generally, we can do that.
And what the opportunities are, you know, to Adam's point, what the opportunities are when we do have administration changes. So that we can see things coming and we can be proactive in what we see coming,
and
as well as
strategic.
meeting our objectives.
Yeah. Exactly. That's fine, Vita. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I've got a couple questions, but before that, I would suggest the timing here might be perfect for us to just actually do this, what you just described, Vita, with New York City, so we have a meeting with them. So we're asking questions and, can get answers and listen to other questions and just like an update. I haven't heard, it's probably been 10 years since I was down there seeing any, again, sort of on this topic. We saw a drinking water project, but we didn't get into it. We didn't really have a big discussion there about big picture. But I would think it's probably a good opportunity, perfect timing for sort of EFC and the board of ESC to have just to sit down and just compare notes and sort of looking ahead for the next few years. I would propose that. I have a couple questions if I could that Brian, again, these were in the write-ups and I just thought I'd one wasn't in the write-up, sort of the schedule you gave. Is there any opportunity to accelerate that schedule at all, given what's going on with the markets?
It's something that we always consider. Part of it is it's just getting the process done with getting the whole team on board. But it is something that we always look at. There's a couple of week play that we might be able to take advantage of there.
Yeah. Okay, great. And the second thing is just, it was written up and I just thought it's worth sort of just discussing it for a second. It's so important, rates and demand for water and the revenue stream. This pandemic has changed so much, so many assumptions. And I know that that's written up. I know that you guys, keep an eye on it. And, I just, thought it's worth just mentioning, even in the last, month, have you seen anything, good or bad or different, with some of these demand numbers, again, given the, people working from home and, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just sort of wondering if a lot of the base assumptions are still good enough that you think you're in a long-term in good shape here.
Coming from New York Water, yes, I think the base assumptions are the same. They did go out with a deal at the end of January. So their OS was just posted, and these numbers are pulled directly from them. So I believe that they are still looking at the same. Again, they have a very strong, from a bond payment standpoint, their collection system is very heavy in the beginning of the year. So, it was September of last year, it was August of the year before that they had the full year's debt service already put aside. So from a financial standpoint, from a creditor standpoint, that looks very strong.
Let me ask you a question. This is just sort of, I should know this, so there is is it a federal program for people who are in arrears? Maybe there's an income test for water and sewer bills?
Related to New York Water,
Not New York Water, just writ large. I've seen, I don't know if this is a long-term thing. Maybe it's just an emergent, sort of a one-time, maybe a short-term thing. But I guess I have been seeing that recently. And there's some, again, I'm just interested in any, obviously some people don't pay and they can't pay, and there's a collection, but I guess I was just wondering, if there's a government program, is that a good thing, helpful thing? What's the effect on the revenue?
I don't know enough about that program to update you on it, but we will look into that, research it, and get back to the board on that.
I will too, because I should have
Okay.
known more about it.
Okay.
And I guess I've seen it discussed, in the news, and
Yep.
I should have done my homework on it. I'll look into it as well, and
Not a
maybe
problem.
follow up with a question.
We will follow up on that one.
Okay, thanks. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it seems like every year we have even a brief discussion on how the water demand is going down in the city. But, looking at some of these projects, infrastructure regardless still has to be kept to a certain level, no matter how many people are using it, it still has to get there safely. So it is something to watch though, as this is the quantity of water use decreases. So it's interesting. Thank you for that discussion. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, then I would like to call for a motion to recommend that the proposed financing be accepted and approved by the full board upon presentation of ID number 1 on the board meeting agenda to follow this meeting.
So
May I have
moved.
a call for the motion? Thank you, Adam, and a second.
I'll second.
Brady. Did I already do that? No, we did that. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that concludes our special meeting of the Finance Committee today. Thanks for the discussion. And Secretary Kate, are we to just remain online for the full meeting?
Let's stay online, and can we just do it officially and get a motion in a second to adjourn the meeting?
Sure. I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting, the finance meeting.
Okay.
Second that.
All right, and then
It's all in favor. Aye.
And stay on for the next meeting.
and it looks like we have sufficient people to roll straight into the board meeting. Let me just do a quick scan, make sure. So, Mr. Chair, if you would like to take it away.
Great. All right. Are we live? We are live. Okay. I'd like to call to order the Monday, February 14 special board meeting. It is currently 2:23 p.m. Kate, can you call the roll, please?
Certainly, Mr. Svanko,
Here.
Mr. Sokol,
Present.
Mr. Leary,
Present.
Mr. Marquis,
Present.
Mr. Krasansky,
Here.
and Mr. Zarofsky.
I'm here.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum of the board.
Great. So as you're aware, the special board meeting was called to address the Finance Committee, which was held prior due to it not being able to be held last week. That is the only item on the agenda. Vita Markey is acting pro tem chair of the Finance Committee. Vita, do you want to just speak briefly on the meeting before we move into the resolution?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, the Finance Committee met prior to this meeting. We had a presentation on our resolution by Brian McClintock, and we are, it is our recommendation of the Finance Committee that New York State EFC, my recommendation reads incorrectly, that the Clean Water and Drinking Water Revolving Funds Revenue Bond Series 22A be approved by the full board.
Thank you, Vita. Any discussion before we move to the resolution? Great. Kate, will you read resolution number 1, please?
A bond resolution authorizing the issuance of up to $879,569,000 New York State Environmental dollars of New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation State Clean Water and Drinking Water Revolving Funds Revenue Bonds on behalf of the New York City Municipal Water Finance Authority.
Okay, could I have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Charlie.
Second is fine.
Thank you, Adam. Brian McClintock with the presentation.
Great, thank you. As we presented to the Finance Committee, this resolution is to authorize the 22A tax exempt bonds to refund EFC Series 2012A and Series 2012B, along with a refinancing of EFC short-term financing for the drinking water and the clean water. The short-term financing is a refinancing of 19 projects, 18 on the clean water side and 1 on the drinking water side. These bonds will be issued on a subordinate level in the New York Water indenture. There will be a 50% subsidy on the clean water projects and a 1/3 subsidy on the drinking water projects. The 2012 bonds were previously issued, and they refunded the 2002B, 2002D, and 2002J bonds. And they did that in 2012. And at that time, there was a savings of $87 million. The 2012D bonds refunded series 2002E and 2002K, and delivered $63 million worth of savings to New York Water at that point. We expect to get ratings on March 25th, issue our disclosure statement on March 28th, with a pricing the first week of April on April 4th or 5th, with a closing on the 21st.
Thanks, Brian. Discussion.
Just Brian, 18 and 1, just maybe the dollar amounts, you know, how much going for clean water, how much going for drinking, just the breakdown.
Yep. For the on the refunding is all clean water, because we weren't doing 30-year bonds at that time. So the drinking water bonds have basically amortized themselves out. For the refinancing, you've got $284 million worth of clean water bonds and approximately $150 million drinking. And it's going to be approximately 50-50 on the clean water. So there's about $200 million worth of proceeds needed for the refunding, and $200 million of proceeds from the bond issue for the refinancing of the short terms.
Do we know, I'm just wondering if we sort of know, or we think the city is even contemplating, because this is city stuff, you know, if they're tracking or in any way noting any of the, again, real, you know, quantifiable benefits. It could be, you know, resiliency. It could be, you know, climate. Does anybody know that they're doing any of that with these projects, or who we would even talk to about that? Just sort of, hey, we're providing them with money to do these things that they're accomplishing, and you know, there are benefits, you know, other than just the savings. You know, obviously they're saving money, keeping rates down, but then look at the other benefits and who else is benefiting.
From a resiliency standpoint, I know that they have a second set of projects that we have financed through our storm mitigation program. And we've done about I think the financing with grant is about $250 million. So that one is directly related. That one would be easy to track. As far as these projects go, again, you know, I don't know if Caitlin or Bill can speak to the direct project, you know, benefits from that.
The majority of the projects that we're financing with the city are consent order projects. They're projects that they need to do, should have a direct benefit on water quality in the New York Harbor and the surrounding area. So
do they, again, not that maybe you don't ask, but you know, do you know even who keeps track of, gee, this neighborhood won't flood now, or like you said, you know, this amount of runoff will be diverted, you know, those kinds of things. Do you ever talk to anybody who does that stuff?
No, certainly not the neighborhood flooding information. The majority of the work we're doing is at the treatment plants and pump stations. So that's where we're looking. We're looking at the benefit in the water quality in their discharge.
Yeah. If you look through some of the projects, you can get a good idea of that. And I was looking to see if they were under a consent order. So thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt, but thank you for adding that. That was one of my questions on the consent order. And if I may, also, President, it would be interesting to have the stats and the metrics, but separate for New York City.
And
Okay, Vita.
we can start those questions with our biweekly meetings that we have with DEP and New York Water on tracking those types of stats to see who at their department is the keeper of those and start to bring them to the board.
And going back to my discussion we had during the finance committee, I mean, once you have some measurement like that, I would think that would help inform and could help inform what you might want to engage with the city, and if you're seeing
Yes.
patterns or things that might, as these funds come around. That's sort of what I had in mind when I was raising those questions before. But thank you.
Great. Anything further on that? As Vita mentioned earlier, this resolution has full support of the Finance Committee. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, unanimous. Anything further before we adjourn? Great. Appreciate everyone taking time out of their Monday to join us. I'll take a motion in a second for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Thank you, Vita and Charlie. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. We are adjourned. As we mentioned last week, next board